and I want to welcome you all. It is so nice to see so many smiling faces on a beautiful Thursday. Thank you all for joining. My name is Maureen Butt. I am a member of the Town Council. I'm also liaison proudly to the Human Rights Commission that I've been the liaison for the last couple of years. I want to welcome my fellow elected, including Councilor Julie Smith-Galvin. I saw school committee member Pete Davis. And if I'm missing anyone else, thank you. And then I want to thank members, including Jeremy Little and Nicole Jacob of the Human Rights Commission, who put in so many hours to make these great events happen. Yeah, they volunteer their time. I want to thank members of public safety who showed up today in support. Thank you very much, Officer Gover and Lieutenant Anderson. And with that, I just wanted to remind everyone as I look, first of all, take a couple of more steps closer so you don't miss anything. But I also just wanted to remind everyone, this is the third year that we have had a Juneteenth flag raising celebration in Wakefield. We were one of the first communities on the North Shore to do it, and I'm really proud that we continue this annual tradition, and I look forward to many, many more as I look at the young residents of Wakefield, you seeing this every single year. So, hi. And with that, I'm going to pass this on to Nicole Jacob. Thank you.
Greetings, everybody. So a few years ago, when I went to Melrose's flag raising, they had our representative, Kate Lipper-Garabedian, speak, and I just was really impacted by what she had to say. So I'm going to call her up, and she's going to speak to you about Juneteenth and its effect on her.
Thank you, Nicole and Maureen. It's lovely to be with you all today. I'm really glad to have a respite from all the rain we've been having lately. This is a great day to do a flag raising. So as Nicole said, I'm Kate Lipper-Garabedian. I'm one of the two Wakefield state representatives, and I bring greetings also from Senator Lewis, who is at a session today at the legislature, and Representative Wong, who has a conflict. I also want to thank everyone who is involved in organizing this celebration, the Wakefield Human Rights Commission, our elected officials, and everyone who's here today. It's incredibly meaningful for us to get to do this together. We gathered first, as Councilor Butt mentioned, in 2021, when Juneteenth was recognized as a state holiday, something I proudly voted to enact the year before. And again last year, with Juneteenth now an official federal holiday. So that's excellent progress. And in reflecting on Juneteenth over the last couple years, I've been thinking a lot in part about my own personal experience. So I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, which was the capital of the Confederacy. My house in the city was not more than a mile from an aptly named Monument Avenue, where decades before I was born, people had seen fit to erect monuments to men who had fought and lost a war to preserve a system of enslaving fellow human beings. Tony Horowitz in the book Confederates in the Attic says that Monument Avenue in Richmond is the only such street in the world that put up monuments to people who lost a war. I don't know if he's right on that or not, but it stuck with me. We had them on these high, grandiose pedestals. They were huge, you couldn't miss them. And they, were all up and down this most prominent of avenues in the city that I called home. And I remember in high school, the consternation and agitation in the community, most of it coming from outside the city limits, when there was a decision to put up another statue, a new statue, of the homegrown hero, the tennis icon Arthur Ashe, who had helped to diversify and integrate the sport of tennis and was also an incredible humanitarian and activist for social justice. I'm glad to say that as of last year, the only monument on Monument Avenue in Richmond, Virginia, is that of Arthur Ashe. Juxtaposed against that, I went to the Richmond City Public Schools. For the first 9 years of my education, through elementary and middle school, there were more black students in my class than white students. Most of my teachers were black, and both of my principals at those schools were black as well. And yet I can't remember a single lesson, a project, or certainly not a celebration that mentioned the word Juneteenth. And that's deeply saddening, because this is a moment like today that should be communally and officially recognized for and by everyone. I'm sure that many of my classmates and their families did celebrate Juneteenth, but they did it with their churches and their civic organizations. It wasn't officially acknowledged, and that was a loss for them, and it was certainly a loss for me. And it happened the same when I was a teacher in the Atlanta Public Schools, which is arguably the capital of the New South. Nearly all of my students were Black, and we had great conversations about identifying the similes and other personification and metaphors in their favorite rap lyrics. We debated the merits of the Patriot Act. We read books about the Holocaust. But Juneteenth wasn't in our textbooks. It wasn't in our state standards. It wasn't in the curriculum that was taught. What a lost opportunity for all of us to imagine what kind of nation we wanted to be building together in light of where we had been. So it was really humbling and honestly a little bit embarrassing that when it came time in 2020 and I had the opportunity to vote to make Juneteenth a state holiday, that it wasn't part of my vocabulary. It wasn't part of my personal history. Nonetheless, just like the Virginia legislature a few months after us, the Massachusetts General Assembly voted unanimously to make Juneteenth a state holiday, and the governor signed the bill into law. Now children of all races and backgrounds know Juneteenth and will understand what it represents as they map out their year. All public school teachers will have an opportunity to acknowledge the holiday and connect with their students about it. The inclusion of Juneteenth in our collective lives enhances opportunity for connection and a shared recognition of the history of our country with all of its pain and all of its progress. Over these last few years, we've had another painful yet necessary inflection point where we're thinking about what kind of community we want to be, how our nation can live up to the values on which we were built. And symbols, official holidays, and flags aren't sufficient, but they're certainly important for progress. Juneteenth will be more than the flag we raise today. It's a space for us as a community and as a country to talk about where we want to go. It gives each one of us a chance to see the word on our calendar or drive by down Main Street and contemplate personally what this means to us. It's an opportunity for us to converse and dialogue among our classmates, our parents, our colleagues, and our neighbors. Most importantly, it's an opportunity to commit to further action to continue this long effort toward a more just, a more free society. In keeping with that commitment, the legislature in the last year or two has passed some critical laws to advance racial justice and equal opportunity. I'm really mindful and appreciative that we now view all legislation through a racial justice and equity lens as we think about things like climate change or health safety standards. One law that comes to mind is the Crown Act, which makes it illegal to discriminate based on natural hairstyles in schools and places of accommodation. This is meaningful for everyone in the Commonwealth and particularly for girls and women of color. Another is the Votes Act that we enacted recently, which increases access to the ballot box, the most foundational exercise of a free democratic society. We've seen other states try to roll back access to voting. We know that communities of color long have faced barriers to it, including with longer lines and more impediments. But in Massachusetts, we've committed to making voting as accessible as possible with universal vote by mail and longer in-person early voting days. And the state's genocide education law and trust fund, which is of personal significance to me as an Armenian by marriage, is further evidence of our commitment to grappling with and confronting our history in an effort to advance toward a more just and peaceful world. So I'm very proud and honored to get to celebrate Juneteenth with all of you this year. I'm incredibly excited to get to do it again next year and the year after that and the year after that. Thank you so much for all of your work to make our community better for our children and for each other.
Thank you, Representative. And now we are going to raise the flag. I'm going to call up our singer, Tanya Crowell, and the Lynn ROTC will also come up and put the flag, raise the flag on the flagpole. You want to come on?
Lift every voice and sing till the earth and heaven ring. Bring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers died. We have come over a way which the tears have been watered. We have come treading our path to the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, out till we stand at last, where the white gleam of a bright star is cast.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you, NROTC. And now we'll have a poem from Terry Carter.
Good evening, town of Wakefield. I bid you a happy, thoughtful, and reflective pre-Juneteenth. Let me first thank the North Shore Juneteenth Association Planning Committee, and especially Nicole McLean for inviting me to take part in your celebration. NSJA is introducing this observance to new communities in the state every year, and I think this is so important. My name indeed is Terry E. Carter, and I come from the nearby city of Medford, Massachusetts. Like Wakefield, Medford is an old town in the Commonwealth with fond reflections of simpler times and revered traditions. I will freely admit that both of our hometowns are living in a much different world right now, one that is seemingly more tense, more troubled, and more terrifying than any of us can easily remember. Still, to find your town pushing forward to host the celebration of Black history and the recognition of our ongoing journey to a meaningful American dream is helping both my emotional and my spiritual well-being more than you might know. Now, I'm a poet. I've published 5 books of verse, and whenever I speak in public, poetry is one of the prisms through which I share my thoughts, opinions, and insights. Today is no different, so I really hope that there are some poetry lovers out there among you. This piece is called Juneteenth Journey. Did Texas say, not here, not we, when emancipation set us free? Did they buck the trend like a longhorn steer and try to keep their slaves in fear? When the soldiers came to spread the orders, did the Lone Star State defend its borders? Did the slavers draw their Colts and Henrys and press their rights as Texas gentry? Did they say, this war may be over for you, but we're still gray and you're still blue? That man Lincoln don't speak for us, so Yankees get or we might cuss. What did they say to their hopeful blacks? You Negroes will never cross those tracks. We'll never treat you equally. Only in name will you be free. Did they bar the doors and douse the lights? Did lynch mobs form on warm southern nights? Did they holler about their precious states' rights? Did they gird their loins and prepare for new fights? When the 19th dawned in the old Southwest, were those slave owners ready for their slaves to be blessed? Were they ready to unlock shackles and cages? Would they ever pay black men white men wages? In this new day of manumission, could they show any grace or any contrition? Could they finally admit that Father Time was ready to wash off slavery's grime? As the soldiers regarded their red-flushed faces, were they ready to end their former disgraces? Or would they simply nod and smile, then deal with free Negroes, Texas style? Would they show just how the West was won, with a tightened noose and a triggered gun? Would they shout defiance into the ranks of the Union Army's advancing flanks? What bloody story would those men tell when whites refused to heed the bell? Would this legacy form a violent chapter for history to record thereafter? Or would some cooler heads prevail and jubilant coloreds get out of jail? The answer's written down for us to study here and then discuss. The news was brought to Texas towns as Union soldiers made their rounds. The news was that the war was won. The Northern troops had finally won, their victory certain to assure an end to what all slaves endure. It's not that simple, then as now. Race remains a heavy plow. Yet we must commemorate America's final slavery gate. The end of that Confederacy is a tale of bloody supremacy, the war we thought we'd never see to set the Southland's bondsmen free. Brothers fought against their kin to keep their hold on Negro skin. The country took up violent arms to rid the land of slavery's harms. 150 years has passed since Texas blacks cried, "Free at last." And yet, the curse of race still finds a way to poison hearts and minds. Guard your lives and take good care. History's hate is everywhere. Brown-skinned boys and girls must learn that crosses in the dark still burn. This is the vigil you must keep. Every shut eye can't be asleep. Please be wary and don't relax. Heed this story and learn the facts. The truth recalls both celebration and unpaid debts by this great nation. Juneteenth calls for drums and dance, for good soul food and games of chance. Gather round, strike up the band, as freedom rings throughout the land. Hug your neighbor and shake a hand, as freedom rings throughout the land. Juneteenth signals freedom's light, a final end to that dark night. Gather with friends in unity, celebrate community. Hug your neighbor and shake a hand, as freedom rings throughout the land. Hug your neighbor and shake a hand, as freedom rings throughout the land. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you. So as he said, hug your neighbor, shake a hand, freedom, we are free. So can you find somebody next to you like they do in the church? Find your neighbor, say hello, shake a hand. Be glad that you're here. Be glad that freedom, that we're all free. Did you guys shake each other's hands? You did. Did you hug? You hugged each other. All right. Thank you. For those who don't know me, my name is Nicole Jacob, and I am a member of the North Shore Juneteenth Association and also a community member here in Wakefield. I have some kids who are around here, and I see Town Councilor Ed Dombrowski. I also see the Black Student Union members, Angela Jiggers, Glavia Smith, Isabella Schwartzberg, Anya Jacob. Did I see Amaya and Kiara as well? Thank you guys all for coming. All right, I just have the proclamation that we usually read. I'm just going to do that, and then we can be finished and happy, right? So Juneteenth has been celebrated annually on June 19th in various parts of the United States since 1867. The day was recognized as a federal holiday on June 17th, 2021. President Joseph Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act into law. This holiday commemorates the 2-year delay enslaved black men, women, and children in Galveston, Texas experienced before being notified of their freedom. General Gordon Granger, along with Union Army soldiers of color, rode into Galveston and announced General Order No. 3, which states, "The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. The freedmen are advised to remain quietly at their present homes and work for wages. They are informed that they will not be allowed to collect at military posts and that they will not be supported in idleness either there or elsewhere." So imagine hearing that you're free, but you have to stay where you are. You've been treated horribly and you have to stay on the grounds and still just get whatever wages your master says. I don't know if that's really free, but that's what happened. And so just remember, like Juneteenth, they were set, everyone was free, but we were not truly, truly free. So imagine hearing of your freedom and being able to know that as a person you have been set free early mornings and late nights of hard labor, or that your body is all of a sudden yours, and that no one has a right to force themselves on you or to you. They can't take your children away from you. They can't split up your family. They have to leave you be. And this should be great news for everyone. This is American history. This is freedom of American people, and we should all be happy to celebrate this great day. So again, hug your neighbor, shake a hand, say freedom at last, free at last. And I thank everybody for coming. This is such a wonderful event. We had Pride last week and the Juneteenth today, and what a great place in Wakefield to celebrate. Thank you everybody for coming.